What's up, everybody? We're back with the second episode of Healers and Headliners. I'm Christian John, and I'm very excited to have one of my favorite comedians of all time. It's a big get for me. The first one was also a huge get with Will Vince. This time I'm with Bonnie McFarlane. If you don't know who she is, you're missing out. She is. If you don't know who she is, you're either not a comedy fan or you're just you watch Kevin Hart over and over and over type thing. So she is absolutely amazing. I could die right now and be happy with how far I've made in terms of meeting people I want to meet in my life. She's great. She's been on Fallon. She's been on Letterman a couple of times. She has an HBO special, a Comedy Central special. She's just, if you go on IMDb and you check out her credits, it's like, how is Christian talking to her? She's amazing. So here she is. An applause for Bonnie McFarlane. Thank you for being here, Bonnie.
Thank you. Yes, I needed that. So this is the best thing mid pandemic is to have someone, talk highly of you.
Are you working? Are you working a lot this year?
I actually am doing an amazing amount. I've in the last, I made Women Aren't Funny. So actually, after I had a baby, I started really getting into writing and directing, and I made that movie, and then, had some dips and valleys, but the last few years have been really great and very, very productive. So and during this pandemic, I just been writing for a lot of people. I wrote a special for Bette Midler.
Oh, wow.
During this pandemic. Yes. So it's been like a really fun, that's the greatest thing about this business is that you can do so many things. It's like you don't have to just do stand-up. You can write stuff for other people. I love writing for other people. And, I've made movies and directed commercials, and it's just fun. Like every day, it's like you get a phone call, you're like, can you do a podcast? I guess. Yeah. It's always different, always changing.
That's awesome. You're absolutely brilliant. So for people who don't know, you came from Canada.
Yes.
Okay. You came to New York before going to LA?
Yes. I came to New York for a brief stop off and then went to LA for most of my time until I got married. And then Rich Voss is a New Jersey comedian, a legend, although we weren't calling him a legend then. And I tried my best to get away from him, but he was just relentless. I ended up marrying him in a weak moment. And then we moved to New Jersey. Now we're, two comedians raising a daughter who may or may not be scarred by it.
That's awesome. So you're a comedian. You're an author. You wrote a book called You're Better Than Me.
You're Better Than Me, yeah.
All right. And you're a filmmaker. You wrote you made a documentary called Women Aren't Funny, which I want to talk about. I want to get into.
Okay, let's talk about it. I love that movie.
Let's talk about it. So so before we get into that, are you a feminist?
I mean, what's weird is that I probably identify more as a feminist in these last few years, but I think it's just because the culture's changed. I remember, I hope you can hear my dishwasher. But I remember always thinking yes, I was a feminist, but I was I didn't want to be bogged down by, gender politics. I was just if I could be just good, people will respect me and I'll get ahead and I just kind of put blinders on for most of my career until, it's weird because when I made that movie, I really didn't make it as a feminist thing that I was making at the time. I didn't think of it like that. Although when I say it, it does sound very feminist. I just had a baby. I couldn't go on the road anymore. And I was I always wanted to make a movie. And I heard Patton Oswalt talking one time on a radio show. And he was saying anyone can make a movie. You can buy a cheap camera, $1,000 camera, and you can just use what's available to you. And I started thinking, what's available to me? And I was thinking comedians. I'll do a documentary about comedy in some way. And then I was thinking what's interesting that I could do from my perspective. And it was are women funny? And I just thought it was so funny, just such a funny topic because obviously women are funny. I mean, I know lots of very, very funny women. And And I myself am a very funny woman. And
Yes.
so I thought it was just like a silly, funny thing that people like to talk about that I could be funny about. But as I started making it, I started realizing like, oh my God, there's people that really don't think women are funny. Like I always thought it was just dudes busting my balls, you know, like when they would say like women are, I remember sitting at the Comedy Cellar table and guys would bring it up when other female comics were there and I would just be like, don't take the bait, you know, because you knew they were just trying to get under your skin. But then when I started making the movie, I realized like club owners especially, like there are people out there that just don't think women are funny. And I halfway through the movie, I really started to kind of get depressed. You see it in the movie. I'm like, oh my God, like this isn't just like a funny thing anymore. This is kind of depressing. Yeah. Like I don't want to be forcing myself on people, audiences, if they don't like women. If guys are really like, you know.
But it wasn't just guys. You showed a segment where women were saying.
Yes, right. We did Man on the Street where we were asking just random people, and there was women that were like, yeah. But you know that's societal too. It's like you get really used to something, and that's how it is. So if you get really used to, like, comedy's sort of always been very like, even now I do well, but I please the patriarchy a little bit. The way my comedy works, how I am, you know. It's I don't know if I've just figured out a way to sort of get around it or whatever, but if you are pleasing to this one kind of audience member, you'll do really well, you know, because that's like the Joe Rogan audience, that's the Kumia audience, that's all the radio guys who listen to comics on the radio, the roasts, you know, all those audiences are the same. They're like they like a certain kind of comedy, and if you know you can get in there, you're doing great. But if you have a different style, it's like it's very hard.
Eddie Brill was saying that he thinks, I think there was something along the lines in the documentary that he was saying that like women do jokes about female like bodily issues or whatever else it is. Hearing some.
My dog. It's my dog.
No, I think it was my microphone. Oh. That women talk about niche women problems, and then Chelsea Peretti was saying that if men had female body parts, and they would do the same thing.
Yeah, endlessly.
Do you think that that's a turnoff for guys? Do you think that that's too niche for them?
I think it's a turnoff for society because we've been programmed to sort of like be okay with what men want to talk about and sort of like hide what women want to talk about, not in this like very like structured way, but it is, you know, even women live in the same world. So, you know, if you like, we're watching Borat and Borat, however you say his name, and you know, there's like that scene where they are doing the father-daughter dance and she has her menstrual cycle, and it's so funny. And Rich was like, oh God, I don't want to see that. I was like, well, it's like pretty groundbreaking. I mean, you've never seen it in a movie before. He goes, oh, I feel like I have. I'm like, when have you ever seen like period blood in a movie? Never. You know,
like a Carrie.
And it was like funny because in his mind it was like, but it's not interesting to him because he's you know, it's not, you know, comedy is very specific in a lot of ways. It's like what's funny to you because it hits you personally in some way, you know, and then that thing might not be funny to someone else. And so it is, I just think it's good if there's, you know, like Maria Bamford has a different audience than Joe Rogan, and that's good. It's like, it's for different people.
You showed Patrice O'Neal saying like women aren't funny, and he said it like a few times in the documentary, and I'm like, is he playing around or is he just being serious? If he is being serious, why is she showing that?
I think comics a lot, they want to say the thing that gets the most like reaction. Yeah. So they weigh everything against it. Because really, if you were going to answer that question, you would say, I mean, for me, I personally don't like a lot of women. There are women that have made me laugh in the past. But, you know, if Patrice doesn't like white female comedy, that sort of makes sense, you know? I mean, he can appreciate it, but the people that probably make him belly laugh are much closer to who he is. But
I mean, he was generalizing in a way that seemed like, I would, if I was a woman, I'd be like, all right, we're friends, but this is hurtful. Like there's
It
nothing.
did get hurtful. That's the thing. It did get hurtful. So Doug Stanhope, who I wrote for on the Man Show, and I've been friends with for a long time, and he was sitting across from me saying women aren't funny, and I was like, what about me? Like, have you forgotten that I like you can say that right when I'm sitting here? Like, it was hurtful. But I think, and maybe this is just to assuage my own feelings about it, but I think they just pick something that they know is going to get a reaction. So they pick the side that they think is going to be most, titillating or whatever, and Patrice is an interesting case because, he listed more funny women than the people who were going on about how funny women are. He was able, I mean, and I think I showed it. I don't remember if I showed it or not, but he was like, Margaret Cho is a funny bitch. Janine Garofalo is very funny. He was like naming all these women. And I mean, I don't think he thinks that. Like, I think it's like a weird societal thing where, like, if you don't like somebody because they don't, you like somebody else better, that doesn't mean this person's bad, Yeah. It's like it hits you differently. It's like I'm not a fan of Jeff Dunham in terms of what I've seen. It just doesn't appeal to me. But that doesn't mean he's bad. I mean, it might mean he's bad.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean? It's like, what, you're allowed to like and not like things.
Some of my favorite comedians to listen to, aside from yourself, include like Adrian Appalucci.
Yes, great.
And I love Amy Schumer. I feel like it's become a trend for people to like knock her.
Jump on Amy Schumer. Well, you'll see that like anyone who gets famous, like there's a certain area where people just start really shitting on them. Even Kevin Hart, I didn't watch his special, but people were really shitting on his special.
The last one?
I think too, the one thing that will ruin a comedian is fans. Like when you go, the first time you get famous and then you go out and you tour the country and it's all your fans, you're great. You get that special that you come home with is the best special you'll ever make. Because the second time you do it, now it's like people are just laughing at whatever you say. You haven't worked on this for 5 years. Now you're just kind of like, because you used to use the audience as a barometer. Like, is this good? Is this good? Is this good? Oh, this always gets an applause break. But now they're just applauding because you're, Bill Burr, or you're, whoever you are. So yeah. I think fans can really.
I'm saying as though I can relate. But I wanted to ask you about. So one of my favorite parts of the documentary was when you dressed up like a dude.
Yeah.
Barney Mac. That was hilarious. And
I wish I want to do one that's just me doing that. Just me going
the whole
out.
Documentary, you mean?
Yes. Because this is the other thing, like we never had any money. So we were always making that movie. Like my big feminist project, by the way, was funded almost 100% by my husband.
Wow.
So he would go on the road, and I'd work on the movie and editing. And I was just constantly asking him for money because I'd have to like set up a shoot or I'd have to, and so that a makeup person costs a lot of money for something like that. And so I didn't want to ask him for it. So I shelled out myself, but I probably should have shelled out more for someone else. Like the woman it's not exactly what she did. So she had like really, really dark beard, really, really dark hair. And it was like, it looked kind of fake, like unless you were back far,
Were you
I would like to do where it looks real.
Were you trying to come across as an actual, like, were you trying to convince them that you were a guy in the audience?
Yes.
Because your voice kind of gave it away. I'm sure there was.
I didn't change my voice, but I thought I have a deep voice. It kind of sounds like I wasn't going to go walk around like that. Like, but so I decided, but I don't know who I fooled face to face, but on stage, I think I did fool people, or they just thought it was fucking weird. Like, they're like, what is this?
I mean, that's what I was thinking. Like, they probably just were like, it's the voice of a female, feminine voice. But then
Right.
of the
Like I was
just
just
didn't
a
know.
little too off. Yeah. I told the makeup, I gave her a picture of um, Zach Galifianakis. I was like, can't make me look like that. And then I wanted Zach to show up at the club.
Wait,
But
so
I didn't look like him anyway. So
for people who don't know, you dressed up as a dude, and you went to the comic strip, and then you did a stand-up set.
yeah.
What confused me though was, so you were sad afterwards when you thought you bombed.
Well, because I really thought, and I still believe, that's why I want to do it again, that it is easier for a guy to
But I
go on
didn't get it because
stage.
you already kill as a woman.
I just thought it was going to be like cheering kind
So I was like,
of.
wait, are those tears real? Like when you were crying at the end, I was like, wait, are these?
Yeah, yeah, we had a real moment there.
And then, and then when you were kissing Rich with your beard on, and it just looked like two dudes, that was organic, and it just turned out funny.
Yes. I might have had an inkling that it was going to be good.
That was hysterical.
Yeah.
That was so funny.
But the whole movie, like, we had to cut so many really funny moments because, like, comedians, also we had, you know, because I would listen to Patton, I went and bought $1,000 camera, like this, like kind of, you know, for home video cameras, maybe top of the line, but it wasn't like a cinematic camera. But and I had no idea how to use it. I was just constantly trying to figure it out. So people, and also because, you know, I'd be funny behind the camera and stuff, and comedians would just, it was so organic, like they were just being funny. So there, I should just do an outtakes reel of like some of the stuff at the cellar and stuff that we had to cut out. It's just, you know, it was, I would love to do another one because it was so great. Because I think everyone was just like uninhibited because it was like me with like, like a little video camera. Like, hey guys,
it was so good.
A movie.
It was so good. It was also hilarious when you called up that, I don't know who it was. I can't remember who you were talking to, but when you were like,
she's a Canadian comic. Yeah.
When you told her to stop doing comedy.
Yes.
And then you're like, so I'll put you down for a yes.
That's because Wanda was like, Wanda goes, it'd be all right if the women who weren't good did stop doing it, because guys keep judging us all based on like this one girl comic they one time saw. So then I made a list and decided to like call women on the list to go see if they'd stop doing comedy. She still talks to me.
That was so funny. And you're like, yeah, you're not doing well. And she's like, well, doing well is like relative. And you're like, well, if you kill, you would know.
Yeah, I go, you don't know because you've never done well.
Yeah. So I'll put you down for a yes. And that was so.
She's still doing it.
She's still. So she wasn't in on it. You actually really made that phone call.
No, I just made that phone call.
That was so funny. There was a part in it too where one of the points, I don't know if you're the one who said it or who in the documentary said it. They said that there are less headlining woman comedians in the present day as compared to 1981.
That was in the documentary?
Yeah.
Oh, that might be true.
I wasn't sure. Oh, okay. I was going to ask you if you know if that's still the case or has it gotten better.
I don't remember that stat. Like somebody else said it though. It wasn't like a stat that was written in the thing, right?
Oh, maybe that was Wanda Sykes.
Oh, Wanda Sykes. Well, so she's probably just by like saying like she notices it. I do feel like it's gotten better since that documentary was made. I think that came out in what did that come out in
2014 maybe?
2014. So but at that time I remember, because I went through with some of the club owners and they would open up their calendars and they'd be like, no women on this month, no women on this month.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And I you know, when I used to tour around the country, I would honestly see no other women comics. It was like a big deal coming in as a female comic. And now, you know, in the last couple of years, sometimes there's a female comic that was just there the week before. There's one coming the next week. It's like, it's kind of like, shit, what the fuck is happening? No.
When you said that you were an extremely well accredited opening act for Rich, what were you not headlining at that point? Like, were you not going around and?
Well, no, I was, but for the movie, I wanted to have some kind of like, I needed some kind of like positive ending. So it'd be like,
Oh,
well,
okay.
I'm headlining.
Because like
But
the whole thing that you went to Gotham and then you were like going to do an
that
hour.
was a little bit like staged only just because I've obviously had done many headline shows by that point. But I did go on the road with Rich. If I did it again, I would do it differently. But at that point, I had done Last Comic Standing, and Rich had done Last Comic Standing, and so we went on the road together as a, I guess because at that time I really wasn't touring anymore because I would just go on the road once in a while because I had the baby. But anyway, before I was impregnated and forced into a life of being a mom, Rich and I went on the road as like a double headline thing. Now, Rich is very, very strong comic. He's been doing it a lot longer than me, and he's just a very, very naturally gifted performer.
Right.
So I didn't want to follow him. I would always go on first, but the clubs they were really kind of mean about it. Like they never, I shouldn't say they never, but we had posters made up that had like, your Rich and Bonnie double headliners or whatever. I don't remember what we called it, but they wouldn't put the posters up. Sometimes they wouldn't put my name on the marquee.
Oh, wow.
They really like treated me like shit. And then when I would come back, a couple clubs when I wanted to come back as just the headliner, they didn't want to do it. And I remember thinking like, why? Like, do they really not see that I'm like good? Like half those people were coming to see me, like in Philly, like we filled that place, like, but I think what happened is that they were getting a really good show for a good price. And so they would always say, come back with Rich, come back with Rich. They'd always, anytime Rich would want to go back as a headliner, almost every club would be like, bring Bonnie, bring Bonnie, bring Bonnie. And then they wouldn't headline me because they wanted Rich to bring me. And then they got this great show for less money, I guess. I don't know. That's all I can think of. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. But club owners really they are the worst. They're very, very sexist. They honestly believe that one person calling and being like, it's a woman? Okay, forget it. We'll come next week. Yeah. Is like, that's their business. Oh, damn it. They're not, and whatever. They're just, they're like kind of low level businessmen.
Yeah, so. It was an interesting point too in the documentary that how a lot of people in power can sometimes be women. I think Artie Lang was the one saying that.
Yes. Well, but this is also. I got to do another one, that because I have a lot more information. But it's like if you are a business, and this is the same as if you're a female comic or in any business, if it's a male-dominated business, the way you get ahead is by doing the same things the men are doing, not by going in another direction and trying to force change. It's by maintaining status quo. And so the women that got ahead, they also didn't promote women a lot of the times in terms of stand-up because they've been A, socialized the same way everyone has, and B, they want to keep the job,
Yeah, I get it.
Be a much,
if you get something.
I've been a head writer on things and been a producer on stuff, and it is like, sometimes stuff that you think is like a no-brainer, like you go, oh, how about this person for a host or this woman for something? And people are like, I don't think so. If you're promoting a woman on TV, it probably still is like this. But back when I was working in television, they really thought that people would stop, flipping, or they would like tune in just because of a hot woman. And maybe that's true. I don't know. But I was like, well, then you're not getting any other women. Like, you're not appealing to half the audience, but they really would be like it, it could be, I worked on this show called, what was it called? It was a NBC prank show. And the first season they had Michael Ian Black. And then I don't know why they didn't want him for the second season to host. But instead, the second season they got like some super hot chick to host it. So you can get like a guy comic, that's fine. But if you're gonna then go into female world, it's
Right.
you gotta be fucking hot.
Yeah, you brought that up, that point. I feel for anybody who hasn't watched this documentary is called Women Aren't Funny. You got to watch
And
that.
it is funny. I'm being really serious about it now, but it is
No,
like there's so many funny things. And, and I kind of make fun of feminism a little bit too, because I think that's important too,
yeah,
like I hate just like striding. I'm a comedian. Like I have to use my tools that I have. And one of them is comedy.
No, of course. Yeah. It was funny and but it's also insightful. I mean, I'm a dude, so I would hate to be on the other side of, being on like, it sucks to be an underdog, like,
right.
It's fun to root for him, but
right.
In all reality,
but what happens is that once a couple women get ahead, like Amy Schumer, Chelsea Handler, like once you start seeing these women, then guys are like, they're all over the place. They're taking over. Then, I mean, since I started, guys are like, it's going to be easier for you. It's like, how is that? I believed it for a long time. I was like, well,
there are a lot of people who
quick. I'm going to take off.
There's a lot of people who think that like, all right, well, if you're funny, you're funny. And then that'll show. Like, it's the same thing with like, the racial talk too. I mean, people think that like, I don't know. Anyway.
Right. And this is it. But can I just give you an example of that funny, if it's funny, it's funny thing? Okay. So, because I also believed that for a long time. Like, and I just kept thinking if I wasn't doing as well as my male peers, then I just had to work harder and write better. And, I did get really good. Like, I think people do think of me as like a really good joke writer. And,
of course.
But here's the issue is like, okay, so I went and saw Hannah Gatsby and Joey Soloway do this thing. Joey Soloway, I used to know as Jill Soloway. And he was the creator of Transparent. So Hannah Gatsby and Joey Soloway are having this New York Times like conversation talk thing, and I bought 3 tickets for me and 2 of my friends. And one of my friends couldn't come, so Rich was like, "I want to come," and I was like, "I don't know if this is good. Like, I don't know if you're gonna like this." So he comes, and as we file in, it's 300 very young, almost all female, trans. There's no one Rich's age in there, unless it's a woman. And I turned to Rich and I go, "Ooh, careful, you're the patriarchy." And he goes, "What's that?" And I was like, "You really have never heard that term? Oh my God, it must be wonderful being at the top of the food chain." So then, but anyway, we're sitting there and we're looking around the audience. And I go, "Do you think you could do stand up in front of this audience?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "You think you'd do well?" He goes, "Well, I'd have to change a few things." And I was thinking, well, yeah, that's what everybody who's not like a straight dude doing stand-up thinks when they go in front of that audience. It's like, I got to change a few things, It's like you can't just go up and do and be the exact kind of funny that you want to be, because that's not your audience exactly. That's your audience, or you know what I mean? So when they say, "Well, just get up there and be funny," it's like, yeah, I get that. Like, but there's also like if Rich got on stage in that audience in front of, they'd be like, I don't know about this.
Right.
And then you have to win them over. And that's what everybody's doing, except for anybody who looks like what people think of comics should look like.
Right. I get it. I understand. You guys, so it's like not just having to be funny, but having to tailor what you're doing to appease.
Yeah, not offend I think a lot of people, even now, subconsciously, when they see a woman on stage, they're like, "Is she gonna yell at us?"
It's kind of funny.
I do. So I just get it out of the way. I start with that. I go, "Sit down, you pieces of shit. Let's do this."
What time is it right now? How much time do we have? So we got 25
Okay.
minutes.
Sorry, am I talking too much?
No, I love it. I have so much I still want to get to.
Okay.
Um, but so if anybody hasn't seen it, it's called Women Aren't Funny.
And if
Uh,
anybody has money that they want to make another one,
yes.
I'll make the sequel. That one cost me well, it cost Rich not that
Okay.
much. We made a lot of money back on that.
Oh,
So
good.
and it's a good investment. Might be a good investment.
It was great, and there were like a lot of great people featured in it. It was hilarious.
It's still people still text me and be like, you know, I just watched this movie and it's like whatever it is. I feel so good to make something that like has lasting impact,
Yeah, it was.
and
It was
I made that without any like that was just Rich and I. We had no executive, nobody telling us what to do, how to do it. We just like did it, and I think we that's such a rare thing, you
yeah.
know, to just
Yeah, it was so good. It was cute too to see, like, I mean, obviously you guys love each other, you guys are married, but it's fascinating, I think, for people seeing two huge comedians married, and then you guys put out a lot of comedy about how much you annoy each other. I mean,
yeah.
what's the title of your podcast?
My wife hates
My
me.
Wife Hates Me. You guys are constantly railing on each other on, whatever it is, the radio shows Jim and Sam or
Yes,
things. So
yes.
it's funny, but it's cute whenever Rich gets defensive of you or he was
Right, right.
consoling you. There's a lot
Right.
of
When he
that.
was consoling, my friend was like, I turned and looked at her when she was watching it. We had a screening at Caroline's, and she was like, wiping her. I was like, "What are you doing?" She was like, "It's so touching."
Yeah, it's very
That's Rich and I make out while I have a beard on.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's very cute. I told you earlier before we started recording that I admittedly did not get yet to read your book. I will read your book,
You
but
don't have to read my book.
I will read your
If you
book.
bought it, you've done enough already. Thank you.
I didn't even buy it yet, but I will buy
Oh,
it. I will.
if
I,
you buy
I,
it, I will make you read it.
I didn't know it was out. I didn't before wanting to interview you, so I didn't get the time yet. But I will purchase it and read it. And from the excerpt that you read during your interview with Jim Gaffigan, it was hilarious. So I wanted to ask you to talk about it a little bit. What
Okay.
inspired you to write it and what it's about? It's a memoir.
It's a memoir. I did a roast of Anthony Bourdain. I'm so bad with dates. This was 2016.
I'm just gonna move my computer because the light's starting to set.
Okay. And anyway, so this is obviously so Anthony Bourdain. I don't know how I got on this big roast. Jim Norton was on it too, and Artie Lang, and then it was like all these chefs and celebrity chefs and stuff, and Anthony Bourdain was the guy we were roasting for the food and wine, some big deal in New York. Anyway, after I roasted him, he was like, I've never met a woman who could do that. Oh my God. He was like, impressed, I guess, with my ability to like take people down. And then, so him and his agent, a couple, like maybe a week later, took me out for lunch. And it's funny to go out for lunch with Anthony Bourdain because I was like, he was like looking, the window was there, and I was looking at the restaurant, and I could see like the chefs coming out, like people were like, can you imagine being a chef when Anthony Bourdain's in your restaurant? So they were like, stressing out, peeking out at the kitchen, and I didn't even really know who Anthony Bourdain. Like, I only knew who he was because I had to like look him up for the roast. I'd heard about him before and stuff, but people. I remember like working on this TV show where they wanted to get him as a guest, and people were like, "Oh my God, Anthony Bourdain!" And I was just like. I don't think that's. I mean, I'm just not like a person who likes things that everyone else likes. So I was like, but he turns out it is Anthony Bourdain. He's amazing, and so he had a book imprint at HarperCollins, and he was like, "Do you want to write a book?" And I was like, "I guess." And it's funny because he was like, "I just never met a woman who had a voice like yours, like who could do that." So I was like, "It's a road, like." I didn't know if he understood. Like, I just write these jokes for the roast. I'm not like walking around being mean to people all the time. But anytime I saw him, I would be a little bit mean to him because I felt like that's what he likes about me. That's why the only one that's roasting him. But yeah, he put me on his show. He put me on this other CNN show we did together. We did like a lot of stuff together. He was just like really great guy. Like once he likes you, it's like,
I feel like the story ends with you as a dominatrix.
it's so good. No, I would have anything. And so anyway, I wrote, he said, write about your life. I go, okay. And I just started writing. I sent him 100 pages and he was like, I love this. It's so good. And I just kept going. And it was like actually so easy. Like there was no holdups on anything. It was like, he was just a great guy. And he read the whole thing. He read everything. Unlike you and my husband. But no, because my life, he didn't know at the time when he asked me to write a book. I don't know if he thought it was just going to be me roasting everyone in my life, but he didn't know it. I grew up in a like very like, you know, people always talk about poverty porn. It's like, I like watching poverty porn. Like, I feel like, oh, that's my people. Like, that's how I grew up. I grew up really, really poor in Canada, no running water, just, you know, living off the lands. My parents were very, very hard workers. They just had no money and they started their lives. And
so you had no running water. And I heard you talking to Jim Gaffigan, telling him that you guys would like churn your own butter.
We would like, yeah. Okay. So we lived on a farm and we had, you know, cows, chickens, horses. I have 3 older sisters and we all had a horse and we were just like we were riding bikes. We'd just go out, get our horse. We rode bareback. We just take the bit, go get the reins on and go riding around. It seems so crazy when I think about that. Like, I think I'd be scared of a horse now even. Like, I don't know how that happened.
Wow.
We would just like, we'd ride to there was a lake. And anyway, but we also had this huge garden and we had to work very hard and everything came from the garden. Like, our food at our table was all like, you know, from our house, the eggs and the, you know, my dad would get the flour and take it in somewhere and get it ground. And we made our own butter. I just sit there and I remember doing homework and then just like shaking butter.
That's so cool. You went from that to being on Comedy Central and HBO and NBC.
Like people throughout my life, people like called me an elitist or a snob. And I always think like, look how far I've come.
Yeah.
You know? Like I was like an Appalachian baby. Now I'm a snob. Crazy. It's like, it's so hard to get them.
That's amazing.
People don't come that far. Yeah.
Part of the crew.
I don't know. It's because my mom was a very smart, educated woman. My dad only had a 9th grade education, but my mom was a school teacher and she always had a little bit of an air of like, not a snob, but just that we could do better, you know? So she worked really hard. I mean, both my parents, but my mom especially was this insanely, you know, hard worker. Made our clothes, made bread, and had a job, you know, crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like people don't like, it's funny because I think about it like, you know, that would be like, I got nothing, I'm poor. And then like you're, you know, walking home with your venti Starbucks that costs like $6, you know. It's like, yeah. It's just, we're not used to like, we don't go without, you know.
That's right.
Nobody does. Even if you're poor, you don't go without. You still have TV and you still have like your phone. And
right.
It's like you have to be completely like on the street before you feel actual.
Yeah, I'm ignorant to this in terms of like what your upbringing was like in Canada. And when you were talking about that, and then when you said to Jim Gaffigan, when you said to him that you had this Canadian toughness, I didn't associate Canadian and tough. I associated them with being kind. Just a cliche stereotype.
Well, I guess I don't know if it's Canadian or where I grew up. I'm sorry about my dog.
Oh, no.
I'm getting a delivery or something. But Yeah, I mean, because there was, I don't know, we just, like everyone kind of that we lived nearby, you know, like people that we thought were rich is because they had a combine or something. They had like farming equipment that was expensive. We're like, look at that thing, it's brand new.
Yeah.
But everyone worked really hard. It was all farmers, and so, and then also there was like where we would like ride our horses or ride our bikes, or we'd just take off for like I'm sure we could have just camped overnight and come home in the morning. My parents would not have gone out looking for us. You know what I mean? Like It was just like, okay,
Yeah.
I hope a bear didn't get her. Sorry about my dog. It's okay. It's a dishwasher. Okay.
And so you only have one child now?
So I have two stepdaughters, and one got married last year, and then Jessica just called us last night, and she's got engaged. So we're so happy.
Congrats. That's awesome.
And then I have a 13-year-old that I birthed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That was a great joke where she came on stage at Gotham, and then after she was doing her little impressions, you pretended like you were ready to auction her off.
She, like, when she was a little baby, before she could talk or anything, I taught her, like, I would say, "Where's your spleen?" And I taught her just a point, like, at her chest. And so I would take her on stage. That would be my finale. I'd take the baby on stage, and people would be like, "Oh!" And then I'd go, "Where's your spleen?" And then she would, and then she would point, and then it's like people went crazy. And then just every couple of years, we'd come up with a new bit, and then she loved it, and she would say, I remember one time saying, like, "What part do you like the best?" She goes, "When you yell at me." Because I would do this thing where I would say, I go through some of her bits, like she'd do an old lady impression, and like I think she was like 4, right? Not when she was, I don't know, and
when she was doing like the whole pushing the cart or whatever it was.
Yeah, she was doing it, and then I'd go, "Let's do the thing where we rap, do a rap song or whatever." And she'd just sit there. I'd pick something she had no idea about, and she'd just be like, "I." And I just start yelling at her, "We practiced this."
That's right. Yeah, I think that was in the documentary. I think she folded her arms for the rapper or something.
Yeah. But it's funny because I wasn't going to do that on the documentary. I just was filming my headline set. And then Rich, he just he would do this all the time if we were working together. He just let her go, and she would always just find her way onto stage and sometimes I'd be on stage and I'd be like, "Oh, that got a kind of a big laugh. That's weird." Some tag or something, like, huh. Then I realized, there's like a little kid like walking up behind me.
Yeah, it's good that
you can't get rid of her. Like I have to either do a bit with her and get off, or there's nothing else. One time I'd get the MC or the middle act to watch her for me, and it's so funny. Comedians are just hilarious. They'd be like, "I have to what?"
Oh my God.
Then, but the one guy, I guess she got up and came to the stage, and he was like, "I didn't know what to do." You take her hand and you walk her back. So she came on stage and she wouldn't get off. I think she was about 6. And like, what am I going to do? Like, hit her? Like, I can't get mad. I'm on stage, like there's 300 people staring at me, and I can't get her to leave the stage. And I've only done like 15 minutes. And so I was like, "I'll buy you a Barbie car if you get off stage." And then she got off stage. I had to buy her a Barbie car.
Oh man.
And then she was like, "I'm on to something here."
Yeah, you mentioned that you had Dave Attell watch her one time.
Oh yeah.
You like hit her in it.
He zipped her up. He zipped her up completely in his jacket. When I got off stage, he's like, "I don't know where she is." And she was sleeping in there. I was like, "How long were you waiting with her like zipped up? Is she passed out?" Yeah.
That's so cute. We're almost out of time, but you said that you had a story about during the roast of Rich.
Oh, so greatest roast in history is on YouTube.
It really is. It is hysterical. The roast of Rich
Rich
Voss.
Voss. It's actually the legendary roast of the legendariest legend, Rich Voss. But I'm going to find it by saying the roast of Rich. Anyway, so a couple years before I gave him this big birthday party, a surprise birthday party on rooftop Manhattan, and it was really great. And then a couple years later, he was like, "You gonna do a big birthday party for me again?" And I was like, "Oh, I mean, that was just like a one-time deal. I don't know what got into me." And he was like, "This year I'd like a roast." And I was like, "So give yourself a roast." He was like, "No, you gotta do it." So then I go, "Okay, fine." So I start planning, like figuring out how to do a roast, get everybody's. It's so complicated. It's so hard to get that many people, to commit to something. Then he goes, "Oh, I think I'd like it televised." Are you? He's just a horrible person. So, So anyway, I got this producer friend of mine, and then this television company that I just know a guy that worked there. He helped me edit a little something of it, and then he told his boss, and his boss was like, "Oh, we want to do this with you." So then just kind of like escalated from there, and it's really like one of the greatest roasts of all time. It really is so fun because it really is all friends. They're all so good at roasting, and it was just killer. It was just so good.
You absolutely killed it. You really, really killed it. And if I watched it before, and then I watched it again after the whole thing about. Sorry that the sun is like setting on this. It's bad time.
Great. It's like cinematographer time.
But I watched it, and you're just so confident on stage.
Oh my God. It's funny because before I start, because I was so busy in it took so much to produce that thing. And there was too many people. The people didn't RSVP. So the place was just so packed. There was people that couldn't get in. People were constantly calling me. The other comics were like, "Where do we go? What's happening?" I had to deal with the production company. And then right before, it was like, my friend who's a producer was like, "Are you ready to do this?" And I was suddenly just like, I cannot do this. Like, these guys are so good and so funny. And then I just said to myself, well, just fake it. You just have to be confident. That's just go up there and be confident. And I did kind of just
best. I mean, you do stand up. Like, you're one of the best I've ever seen at stand up. You kill. I've seen as much as I could possibly see. But then on that roast, so after seeing the Women Aren't Funny documentary, where women are like this underdog and all that, and then you watch Bonnie McFarlane roast all these dudes, and I'm like, this doesn't seem like an underdog at all with that kind of energy.
Right.
With that one, I mean, you were killing in the whole night, but then there was one moment where you were saying, "All right, I got one joke," and then you're like, Bob, talking to Bob Kelly, so you should start making your way right now. It was, but it just slammed him so hard. I was just thinking, like,
oh my God,
this is not the energy of an underdog. This is the energy of a bully. Like, this is the energy of the dude with the biggest penis in the room.
But I swear, I feel like when I'm in that zone of doing it's like the Anthony Bourdain thing. Like, I've never heard a woman do that before. But there's I feel like that's the bully thing. That's my true self. That's where I really come alive. It's
that is hilarious.
That's who I truly am.
That's why, it's just, that's what it is. I just think it's like
I've had moments obviously doing stand-up where it's you're doing it and it's fun and it's fine, or sometimes it's work. But then there's those other times where you're just you're running the show. You're ruling that room, and it's less there's something and I get so cocky about it, I have this gift.
You should be cocky. You do have this gift.
And then it's just, but then after you think about, as soon as I lay in bed, I'd be like, oh my God. What's wrong with me?
You killed it. You've killed it at JFL and Letterman. It's always a pleasure to see you, Fallon from the Comedy Central Presents. It's been so great the sun is setting, and I think you have places to be. I promised I wouldn't hold you, but
Yeah,
I
no,
just
this
want
was
to
so fun. I love talking to you. Thank you.
thank you so much for doing this. I really, really appreciate it. I don't really have a huge audience, but if you want to plug anything, I don't know if there's anything that you want
I
people
mean, they
to
can
know.
get Women Aren't Funny. It's available on Amazon Prime or iTunes, and
Okay.
the roast is free online. And then the My Wife Hates Me podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, or the Laugh Button. That's where that's our home.
And then there's also, so there's the Women Aren't Funny documentary. There's a book called You're Better Than Me. There's a podcast called My Wife Hates Me.
And I have an album called that just came out in March, so it's still pretty fresh. Bird Calls. I forgot the name of my own album. Bird Calls.
Bird Calls. So
Yeah.
if you haven't seen her, Bonnie McFarlane, she's one of the best stand-up comedians ever. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really, really appreciate it.
Good luck with this. I think it's gonna work out for you.
Thank you. Hopefully you'll come back again.
Yeah, of course. Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.